In today's episode of Today in World War II, March 20th, the Nazis planned the resettlement of Eastern Europe with Germans. Stalin is assured by his staff that the Germans will not attack the Soviet Union until Britain is defeated. MacArthur declares, "I shall return." The British Eighth Army in Tunisia breaks through the Germans' Mareth Line. And finally, Hitler makes his final public appearance of his life and the war. Let's get started. Okay, so on March 20th, 1941, March 20th, 1941, Heinrich Himmler, Rudolf Heiss, Fritz Todt, and Reinhard Heydrich, and other top German officials met in Berlin, and the topic of discussion was to plan the resettlement of Germans into Eastern Europe. As I have said in other videos, the Germans' long-term plan for Eastern Europe was mass murder of pretty much everybody. The minorities, the Czechs, the Poles, the Slovakians, the Belarusians, the Russians, you name it. If that was going to be the Lebensraum, the living space, the only people that would survive would be a slave caste that would do all the manual labor, much like the plantation system that the American South had before and during the Civil War. It's very interesting that the most horrible, the most horrible fascist regime in the history of the world received inspiration for its plans, post-conquer plans in Eastern Europe from the United States of America's history. Pretty damning for our history, I would say, right there. Sorry if I'm being accused of being anti-American. I'm just anti bad things that happen in history. I don't believe that we should hide our heads in the sands or try to puff up and say, hey, we're the greatest country in the world. I think we're one of the greatest countries in the world, in the history of the world. I love our democracy, but you know what? We made a lot of major mistakes. And for Heydrich and Himmler taking a chapter from our history and slavery, and they were going to institute something very similar in Eastern Europe. Well, that's pretty damning about us. I mean, look, I'm not taking the attention off of them. It was damning for them too, and it just goes to show you that the Nazis had different final solutions. It wasn't just for the Jews. They were at the top of their list, but they were going to murder tens of millions of Eastern Europeans as well because they were in the wrong place. The Germans wanted their land. They wanted their Germans to take over. They had to go bye-bye in the sense of that kind of a bye-bye, getting killed, and then having a slave caste do all the manual labor. So that was the plan. On March 20th, 1941, Joseph Stalin was assured by his staff that Germany would not attack the Soviet Union until after the United Kingdom was defeated. Whew, wow. The Nile is not just a river in Egypt. Apparently, it was still in existence in the Soviet Union before the Germans attacked. The United States, at the same time, shared intelligence about a possible German invasion of the Soviet Union with the Soviet Umansky, but as we see, Stalin could not be convinced even when the invasion actually happened. He disappeared for a number of days. He was trying to process that everything was wrong. Well, of course, we know that in a few months, everything's going to change real soon. On March 20th, 1942, MacArthur made it through. He made it to South Australia, and he made his famous "I came through and I shall return" speech while he was transferring to different trains to get down to Melbourne. He made good on his promise. The guy handed to him for all his warts. He was a strategic genius. Meanwhile, the U.S. War Department had promoted Wainwright, MacArthur's deputy. He was now a lieutenant general, and he was given command in charge of all U.S. troops in the Philippines. MacArthur no longer had control or command of the Filipino theater, and that's going to loom large real soon when it comes to surrender. On March 20th, 1943, the German Eighth Army broke through the Germans' Mareth Line in Tunisia. That was a line that had been keeping the Eighth Army at bay from breaking through to take out the rest of the Afrika Korps in Tunisia. They were going to go out. The two biggest prizes were the port cities of Bizerte and Tunis. Clock's ticking with those two ports, let's put it that way. Finally, Hitler made his final public appearance in Berlin on this day, March 20th, 1945. He awarded medals to some Hitler youth soldiers. Those poor boys, they were like, what, 14, 15, 16 years old. They were going to get slaughtered by the Soviets. Nothing good comes of fascism or authoritarian regimes. Nothing. Hang on to your democracy, fight tooth and nail, or this type of stuff happens. And don't say I'm over exaggerating the danger because I'm not. History shows too many times when this happens. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate it. I will talk to you tomorrow.